Hello there. If you're able to come on camera for the masterclass, that would be great. But if you're in a situation where you can't, I understand. Hello, thank you.
Hello.
Okay, we have people who are still coming in, which is great. So as you're coming in, if you're able to come on camera, that would be great. Love to see your face. It helps me keep energy up and lets me know how I'm landing with what I'm talking about. Okay, it looks like we have cleared out the waiting room. Perfect timing. Look at this, 12:01. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Chanel. Well, you're even in your car. I appreciate you coming on screen. Please be safe. Great. So I want to let me just take a look at how many folks we got going on in here. Wonderful. One more coming in.
To you because they're just really nuts.
Thank you. So if you're able to come on camera, please do. You'll notice that Claire N is not. Claire Nazareth is my support person today. She'll be letting people in the waiting room in, and and be monitoring the chat and throwing links in there. But she'll be staying off camera so she can focus. So welcome everyone to Revolutionize Your Leadership. We're going to be talking about 3 keys to clarity and balance in your leadership and in your life. So I hope that you're ready. This is going to be a pretty fast-paced and interactive workshop. I'm going to be throwing out tips and some bonuses for you, things that you can take advantage of. If you miss it, if you're driving like one of our participants, don't worry, I'm going to be sending you an email with all of the links later. So, probably by tomorrow morning. So don't worry about it. But there is a lot throughout the class that you can take advantage of, some great resources. So let's see. I'm thinking that we got everybody in from the waiting room. Fantastic. Welcome to everyone if I haven't welcomed you already. And if you're able to, thank you, Anthony, for coming on screen. I appreciate that. Looks like you're also in your car, maybe.
Yes.
Great. Okay, and everyone, I am going to mute you all, and then I want you to know that this is going to be interactive through the chat. And then if you want to stick around at 1 from 1 to 1:30, I've reserved that time when we all come off mute. And if you want to have a conversation about anything that we talked about that I went over in the workshop or anything that came up for you, it's sort of an open session for people to stick around. If you don't, please feel free to leave at 1 or whenever you have to. So I'm going to mute everyone. And I'm taking that I'm not muted. I'm looking over there. Okay. So I hope you all are ready to unleash your potential to achieve success in a way that is balanced and authentic to you. As I mentioned, this is an interactive session. I'm going to be asking you some questions. I want you to put them your responses in the chat if you can safely do that. This helps me know sort of where you are, what you're dealing with based on your industry or the part of the world that you're in, because culturally things can be very different, and how you're sensing your work-life balance right now. So before I begin, I want to let everyone know that this is not your typical, here's how you have work-life balance. You turn off your phone at night. You say no to people. We'll do a little bit of that. It's not about your team communication. It's not communication in general. This is not a leadership skills development course. As we think of it generally, it is a self-leadership development masterclass. So this is about looking at how you manage, how you self-manage, because great leadership comes from great self-leadership. So that's what we're focusing in on today. I also want to mention, because I see a number of men in the group, which is fantastic. I have marketed this to women, but I want to be really clear that everyone is confronted with the stress and the demands of overwork, burnout, mismanagement. All of the stuff that we're going to be talking about is really applicable to everyone. My examples are of women, though, because I do tend to work with more women than men. Although I do have male clients. So let's start with the engagement. So let me know, where in the world are you? Where are you calling in from? And Chelsea, oh, Maryland. Hamilton, Canada. Dublin, Marin, San Rafael, yeah, California, Boston, Idaho, Northern Ireland. Wow. So we have people from all over the world. This is sort of what my client base looks like. What I'm wondering is, next up, Texas. We've got someone from Texas. Thank you, Anthony. So next up is, what is your industry? Where do you work? What field are you in? And are you, a manager, a leader, a solopreneur, a consultant? What is it that you do? Medical, addiction medicine, event production. Monica, I could probably use you. Only kidding. If you can come on, if you're not on camera, if you can come on camera, that would be great. I also want to let you all know, while you're putting in what it is that you do, or where in the world you are, that I have a number of screens. So if you see me looking like all across the room, know that I am with you. Okay, so we're going to go a little bit deeper now. And I'm going to ask you a little bit harder question. So I'm going to read off 3 statements. Karen, thank you for coming online. I really appreciate it. I'm going to read you 3 statements, and just put in the chat if one or all of them resonates with you. Just a simple word and yes or yep, I experienced this. So can you recall a time, or are you currently feeling like you might be compromising your well-being or even your relationships for your career? So if that sounds familiar to you, just let me know in the chat. Or maybe you're finding that you're questioning your achievements and your value as a leader or a contributor or in the program. I see we have a couple of students, or in the program that you're working in. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of yeses. And are you feeling burnt out or overwhelmed with the constant juggle of your personal and professional responsibilities? And Anthony, no, I'm so glad that you're not feeling this. Bravo. Not so much. Okay, good. Sometimes it's an ebb and flow. Yes, often it's not just this constant influx. It comes and goes. I think that's a great point. I think that was Monica. Yes. Okay, so not too many people are feeling burnt out or overwhelmed. That's great. Normally, I get a lot of people who are feeling that way. So, love it. Okay, so let's see. So I'm wondering, when you think about, we did see some folks are feeling this, if you're compromising or you're questioning your achievements, that I wonder how it makes you feel as you're doing this sort of juggle between your work and your life. Um, some people might feel frustrated, angry, disappointed. Just as the new normal. I'm seeing it heavy. Yeah, it feels heavy. It's a big burden. I hear that. Tired. Yep, exhausting, stressed, guilty and frustrated, spent. Yeah, just plain old spent, like there's nothing left. I get that. So we're going to be talking about um, ways to manage those feelings and to shift those feelings today. But I want you to know that these feelings are that you're sharing here in this chat are so familiar today to me. Today, I'm going to share a framework for achieving at work while bringing balance into your life. Again, this is not a class on typical management or leadership practices. It's about your self-leadership. And before we dive in, I'd like to share with you my own personal uh, and professional journey to balance. Today I'm genuinely thankful and I truly enjoy the things and people in my life. I have a comfortable home. I live in a beautiful place in the world. I live in Santa Cruz, California. I spend time with family. I travel. I walk in the woods or on the beach whenever I want. And my professional life is deeply satisfying. But it's not a life that I created as a coach. It's a life that I created before I moved into coaching while I was in a high pressure, high stakes job. I've been living this life of clarity and balance and fulfillment for a relatively short period of time, maybe 8 or 9 years. So this is also not a talk about how do you jump from one career to another, because that is also overwhelming, heavy, and stressful. So we're talking about how do you make the life that you want within the career that you have, that you've wanted. So before finding this place of balance and clarity, I lived my life under a shadow of imposter syndrome. It drove me to work harder and harder and take on more and more. And I also had a terrific fear of failure. So I did everything I could to avoid failure. My career, so you got that combination, take it all on, don't fail. My career blossomed. And my drive consumed me. I became more anxious. I slept less. I worked more. But even with all of that, I couldn't see the full impact until one day I was sitting in a meeting in this beautiful conference room and I felt every one of my buttons being pushed. Have you ever felt that? Like every single button being pushed. And I felt this warm pressure at the base of my spine. I thought, oh, that's interesting, until it started rushing up my back. And I really hate to be too much information, but I thought the top of my head was going to explode in this conference room. So I professionally got up and said, oh, excuse me, I just remembered something, ran down the hall, found a friend, and I went to the ER. And sure enough, it was high blood pressure. You would think it would have been a wake-up call for me. I took the meds that the doctor suggested, and I ignored everything else they said until I found myself in bed with two more um, stress-related issues evaluating my life. I had two preteens at home at that time, and I was the sole breadwinner for my family. So financially, I couldn't drop out, but I also couldn't continue as I was and remain present for my kids. I mean, really, like physically remain present for my kids. I was scared. I was so frightened. And I still get emotional about this, even though they're adults. I still get emotional about it because I was so frightened that I wouldn't see who they would become as adults. My fear of missing out on the joy that I knew that I felt being with my kids and my family outweighed my fear of failure. It's like the thing that broke my fear of failure. So as soon as I was able to start getting regular exercise, I eventually found meditation, which gave me a little bit more space between the tsunami of thoughts about and worries about all I should be doing and calm. It gave me a little bit of space. The more I meditated, the larger the space grew, and the worries became smaller and smaller and more reasonable. In the process, I discovered a number of things that I needed to change in order to make this new way of being last. And that's really critical. You have to learn some new skills to make change last. I knew I needed to build boundaries, confidence, and address my own internal thoughts about why I was working. And it took me a long time to figure this out on my own. I started to make some changes like setting boundaries, and I would find myself backsliding. I don't know if you've ever found out, like you set a boundary, no, I'm not going to do that. And then 3 months later, a month later, 3 weeks later, you're like, oh, yeah, I'll take it on. I'll take it on. So I found that repeatedly until I met a coach, and I took a leap of faith and I invested in myself. And the payoff has been really quite remarkable. I stopped the backsliding, and when I did, tangible success started to happen. I found more time in my day to do what I needed to do because I spent time doing the things that I loved to do. It's counterintuitive, but it works. I found confidence in myself. I found enough confidence to negotiate 3 significant raises within a very short period of time in a place that doesn't give raises. I also found that the change wasn't just about me, which is why I call it revolutionize your leadership. It was also about my whole team, and not just my team, but my peers. So as my well-being became more important to me, it became more important to me how I managed my staff. And that then in turn helped them to look at how they managed their teams. And then my peers would come over and say, so Linda, what are you doing? Why are they so productive? It was really about, well-being and respect. So I stopped being driven by fear of failure. I let go of my exhaustion. I still worked really hard, but I had a really rich life. I had a really rich life. And I was able to claim my own brand of balance. And it's something that you can do too. We all can do without getting to the point of health, relationships, or another sort of crisis. Today, I'm going to be sharing part of a framework that I use with my clients to achieve these results in the form of simple tips. So this is just part of the framework that I use, but these are the ones that I think really are easy to adopt, and they can make a difference. So that's my goal for today, for you to walk away with something that makes a difference to you. But first, let me know if any of the elements of my story are familiar to you or relatable. Tracy, thank you. I see you've said so relatable. Absolutely. Yeah. Ah, Danielle, yes. I hear you. Yes. And I've even got a yes with 2 S's. Love it. Okay. So before we begin our presentation, I'm going to get our slides ready, but I want you to think about this. I want you to think about if you could have that balance. Some of us are visual and we see images of what our life would look like. Some of us feel it in our hearts, or we know in our souls, or emotionally, we get a sense of what it would feel like. I want you to get that sense for yourself of what that balance would look like. If the struggle was gone, what would it look like, or how would it feel? Or emotionally, where would you be? Or physically, where would you be? And I want you to hold on to that image. You can put a word or two in the chat. That's great. But really, this is for you. So you think about that while I get our slideshow ready, which is always more challenging for me than it should be. But oh well. Okay. So Okay, so can you all see me? Yes, okay, great. All right. So this always gets a little funky for me because I can't really see you. So I'm glad you can see me. So as we're going through this, I want you to hold that sort of like vision of what could be for you. So today we're going to be looking at, let me come down here. Here we go. We're going to be looking at the part of this framework. We're going to look at our core of authenticity, leadership beyond the surface, and boundaries and balance. These three keys are steps or things, whatever you want to call them, are part of a framework that I use with my clients in my coaching programs, where I work one-on-one to create programs that are customized to your unique needs. These are, as I mentioned before, these are the elements that are so easy to implement. They're sort of fun, they're uplifting, and they can really be game changers. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the class, if you weren't here, I will be offering tips and tools for you to take advantage of, including information about upcoming classes, assessments you can take, things like that. Also a breakthrough session, if you'd like a one-on-one breakthrough, we can do that. So let's get going. I am so ready to go. There we go. Okay. So we're going to start with this first element, recognizing your best. In all of my programs, I help clients identify their strengths, their accomplishments, and their values. These elements represent the best in you. They are at your authentic core. We talk a lot about authentic leadership. When you look at your strengths, when you look at your values, when you look at all you've achieved in your accomplishments, in the way that you would look at your life, a friend's life, without lessons learned and should have done this and judgments just at what you've accomplished, you start to build up a reservoir within you. It's human nature not to look at these things. We look at our deficits. We criticize them. We try to fix them. We look for the things that are wrong. And this is human nature. We're built to be able to do this, but it can become exaggerated and amplified by our workplaces, by our conditioning, by our society. And so it can be something good can turn into something not so good for us. So understanding the best in ourselves turns down the volume on those criticisms. We magnify the best in ourselves. And again, it fills that reservoir of internal resources. And it's necessary if you want to stake a claim for better balance. So without knowing all you've got, it becomes really hard to do the other things. So I like to include accomplishments because these are really easy to forget and we minimize the things we do. And if you're dealing with an inner critic or imposter syndrome or a gnarly boss, understanding your accomplishments can be really critical. It brings a growth orientation. It shows you how far you've come, what you've achieved. And it builds a database of proof that you can problem solve and overcome challenges. It's right there. It's right within you. So if you walk away with nothing else, if you leave the masterclass right now, take this away. Make an inventory of your accomplishments, the things that you're proud of, the things that you wouldn't even think that, they were good at the moment, but the end result years later or months later was great. Put them on the list. Start with last year. Go back 3, 5, 10, however long. Make an inventory and review it and update it quarterly or more frequently. And that way you're looking at that database all the time. So next up are values. We all know we have them. Yes, we all know we have values. And if I gave you a list of 80 values, I bet you could knock off 10 or 20 that aren't very important to you. And that would only leave 60 or 70 that are. And so it takes us a really, really long time to hone in and find our top 10 and then to prioritize them. And we don't do it very often. which is a shame because they shift and change as our life shifts and changes. And so it's important not only to know those top 10, but to know what areas they fit into. Our work values can be similar, but specifically different from our values around our spirituality or our relationship. So it's important to look at them. I'd like to share a work-related story about values, if I may. I have a remarkable client, Chris. All of my clients are remarkable. She was, when we started working together, she was newly appointed to a C-suite position, and she quickly adapted to the company's culture, which was great. Okay, I see this question. No, I don't. I have a question in the chat. I'm going to stop for just a moment. I don't do replays. I offer this every month. And we can address the how do you celebrate your accomplishments when you're celebrating your team. We can address that at 1 if you're able to stay. So everyone, I'm sorry, I just wanted to get to that question. So Chris, remarkable, C-suite. She comes in, she works in this great organization that has very, very healthy corporate values, and she adapts. She's able to lead with empathy and innovation, and she's respectful of everyone in the organization. At the same time Chris joined this team, another person did. We'll call him Henry. After about 6 months, the CEO asked Chris to work with Henry to mentor him because he was struggling to adapt, and he had seen the CEO had seen her just pick it up. So initially, Chris saw this as an opportunity to foster positive change because her colleague had been struggling. However, it became evident in our coaching sessions that Chris was encountering significant frustrations, and not with the process itself, but and not necessarily with the dynamic between her and Henry, but how she saw that he managed. In our conversation, she frequently expressed a sense of responsibility for those feelings, like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way, which is very common for many of us. But after a few sessions, I asked her to revisit her core values and look at how they aligned with the current situation. And she called me up very quickly and said, you know what? I think I've got a values conflict going on here. And so we were able to work through that. So rather than trying to change Henry or trying to change herself, she understood the importance of acknowledging this conflict in values and strategizing around it. Values conflicts are often disguised as what's wrong with them or why don't they just? They can show up in our frustrations, our anger, and also in our connection and our camaraderie. They are always swimming under the currents of our work and our life. So they're very important to take a look at. Up next are our strengths. Giving full attention to your strengths can have a multiplying effect on your well-being. And that's not just me being coachy talking about that. This has been studied for about 3 decades, how a focus on your strengths can multiply their effects on your well-being. Why? Because they are inherently a part of you. They are the manifestation of the best in us. A simple activity of noticing when we activate our strengths enhances our self-awareness, boosts our confidence, empowers us to tackle challenges and change with growth and resilience. They are your authentic best, and they are recognized by others as being the best, their strengths. Like all good things, even our strengths have dark sides, but we're not focusing on that today. Although I will, in the next segment, I'll have a tool for you where you can take a look at that. There are a number of tools out there to use to find your strengths. In corporate situations, I use the Gallup, the Clifton 34. And for all of my clients, I use the character strengths assessment, the VIA. It's virtues in action. It's a tool grounded in years of positive psychology research, and it's designed to highlight how the virtues that are universal across cultures, time, ethnicities, circumstances show up in you. There are 24 of them. We all hold all 24. There are no weaknesses. And I'm going to pop through here because I forgot about my slideshow. Let's see what's next. Oh, not that. Sorry about that. Going to whiz back through. Some more. Okay, your universal character strengths. These are the 24 character strengths. Can you all see them? I hope. If you can, pick out one of these words that pops off the list for you. And if you're able to, drop it in the chat. So, leadership, excellent. I love these because they're different than, strategic, analytical. It's about zest, creativity, perseverance, spirituality, things that we all know are important. These are the strengths. So here's a tip for you. First, so grab it, look at it. You don't have to share it with me, but you can if you like. So the tip is to first identify your strengths and then to notice them in action. And here's our first bonus for you. So Claire, if you're still there, could you put the link for the VIA in the chat for everyone? So we're going to share a link in the chat to take the VIA. You can do it. Thank you, Claire. You can do it directly from the VIA site, or if you take it from my link, I will give you a report on how to read the report that you get. That's the assessment that you get. And also I'll send you one of your top 5 strengths. I will send you a write-up on how to really acknowledge and recognize and leverage those strengths. So tips and tools for segment 1, take the VIA. It's free. It'll come to you. I take it before the end of the week, before Sunday. I don't keep this open all the time for all of my clients or the people that I work with, so it's just for you. Identify and recognize them in action and appreciate them, and inventory your accomplishments. Okay, and I did it again. Look at me, right to the end. All right, so next. Next, we're going to look at leadership beyond the surface. So as I mentioned before, these keys are part of a larger framework I used in my programs, and there are many components to the program. Today, we're not going to be discussing the workplace barriers that many of us face, like bias. But I couldn't help sharing this one image. As I shared with you, I do work predominantly with women. And so I wanted to look at women in leadership. So I went to Getty Images, right? Professional site. And I picked up some images and I thought, I'm seeing something here. I'm not quite sure about it. So let me look at male leaders. And I think this was, the query might have been professionals, professional men, professional women. And I don't know if you see the difference, but boy, I saw the difference. If you see a difference, put it in the chat. Well, I'll share with you what I saw, which is all of the women have their arms crossed. Yes, yes. So, that sign for women, we think of it as a power pose. But the bottom line is that in human psychology, it means that we're defensive. So even in our stance, the men are more relaxed. They may not be super relaxed, but their arms aren't, they're not in a defensive stance. So the next time you find your arms crossed in a professional situation, simply pause and ask yourself why, and shift into a more intentional, powerful stance. It could be like this, although that's not a very good one. I would often have a book with me that I would keep at my side. And, I talk with my hands. If you haven't noticed that, I talk with my hands. So I shifted away from this. So it's just something to keep in mind. But we're not going to be looking at this sort of thing today. We're going to turn our gaze inward. We're going to do a deep dive and have a little bit of fun. We're going to be looking at 3 common ways our inner challengers show up and a way to challenge them. So first up, we've got imposter phenomena. This is the feeling that comes about when we're in a new role or doing something new, a new project. It's the period of self-doubt about our capabilities. It's when we find ourselves wondering if we're up to the challenge. Imposter phenomena is very common. Up to 80% of all people have experienced imposter phenomena at one point in their life or another. So if you felt it at some point in your life or career, give me a yes in the chat. Moving on, we've got imposter syndrome. Now, this is for me, differentiation. People use phenomena and syndrome together all the time. I separate them, I delineate them a little bit. Imposter syndrome is where that self-doubt doesn't fade away over time or experience. You just keep wondering about whether or not you're up to the task, even though you have all the evidence that you are. It's a lingering feeling of being a fraud, a fear of being found out, despite evidence of your competence or success. So if you've ever had this lingering feeling of imposter syndrome, drop a yes. So I'm going to put in here lingering, the lingering imposter, or yeah, almost. This happens in more places than work. It can happen anywhere in life. Anywhere in life, this can happen. And up next, we've got our inner critics. They are the voices in our heads that never miss an opportunity to highlight our mistakes, amplify our flaws, or suggest we could have done something better. They are our toughest critics, often holding us back with negative self-talk or pushing us forward with fear. I'm curious about how many of you have experienced an inner critic that speaks up. It may sound like you shoulda, you coulda, why didn't you? Why would you ever? Okay, all the time. I do know that feeling, yes. So we're going to work a little bit today on getting some space between, remember how I said in meditation, we're not doing a meditation, don't worry. I put space between my thought and my action, right? So we're going to work on creating a little bit of space, a little bit of a window for you between the thought and then responding to it. So what I'd like you to do is to let me know when these feelings are coming up. What does it feel like for you? Is it maybe agitation or worry? Physical sensations such as tension or a stomach ache? How does it show up in your behaviors? Like I told you that my fear pushed me to work harder and harder. So how does it show up in your behaviors? Procrastination, perfectionism, worry, self-doubt, frustration, perfection, lethargic, yes. Just want to shut down. Procrastination. I want to just acknowledge, thank you so much for sharing. what you feel, what you experience, not just with me, but with this group, because we break down this thought. One of the things that we're breaking down is that I'm alone and I only feel this way, which your inner critic wants you to feel, but you're not. Many of us have these feelings. So this is a lighthearted way to start managing. So I hope you're willing to play with me, because play is very important in like breaking free of fear and anxiety. So I want you to take a moment, and we'll only live in this moment for just a moment. Recall your inner critic or the voice of your imposter when it was alive for you. Maybe it was a small error you made that your inner critic or your imposter blew out of proportion, or an interaction that has you doubting yourself or replaying it over and over in your mind. So you've got that. Let me see if I can see folks. You got it? Okay. I would like for you now, as you're thinking about that, those terrible voices or images or whatever it is, I want you to start imagining those words coming from a lizard. Okay? A lizard. I got a smile. I got a smile. It's lighthearted. I told you we're going to make it lighthearted. So some of you might have done this exercise before, but it's good to refresh your lizard. They change over time. So I want you to start to imagine this lizard. It can be beautiful or it can be unattractive. It doesn't matter. It's your lizard. Allow whatever comes to your mind just to flow and take shape. If you're someone who doesn't visualize, then list out the attributes of your goofy lizard. If you can make it something that's amusing to you, I encourage you to do that. Is it large? What color is it? Is it sleek or is it lumbering? Again, make it something that you can find humor in. And once you've got it, now I want you to do the next step is to name it. Name your lizard. Here's mine. She's Eloise. If you have a name for your lizard, drop it in the chat. That would be great. If you don't, that's fine too. You can wait until later and name your lizard. Naming: Franklin, Leroy, love it. Joey, Courage. Ooh, nice. So the thing about naming your lizard is there's actually like science behind this, okay? When you label something, your brain goes, oh, this is what it is, rather than just the voice that's always telling you like, oh, you need to work harder, you need to do more, you're not doing enough. It becomes, oh, that's my lizard. Joey, doing what lizards do. And so we start to break, we give space between the thought and the action or the emotion that is triggered simply by labeling it. So it's the first step in gaining clarity about your inner thoughts that simply may not be true. So the thing about those things is many of my clients at first say, Linda, I'm logical, I'm intelligent. If I'm thinking it, it's true. Nope, it's not necessarily true. And it's good to probe on it because there's so much that goes into those thoughts that is so hidden from you that they're not always as logical as we think we are. Our inner critics are invisible blocks. There are invisible blocks, and they're at the heart of what I do with all of my clients because so many of us carry them around. We can uncover deeply rooted limiters in most conversations that I have with clients and learn new skills for a life without these inner limitations. Remember that story where I said where I was reverting back to my old patterns? Seeing the pattern is not enough. We also have to break it and practice living without it. So the first step, though, is to create some space between your thoughts and your response. So do you see any benefit for you in identifying your inner disbelief about yourself as a lizard and giving it a name? What impact do you think this could have on your thoughts or your doubts as they're coming up? Thank you, Tracy. I see I do. Claire, I wonder if you could drop the next link. And this is a link to a quiz. Not to take them as detrimental as I do. Yes, they are not all true. They're just thoughts. One way to look at it is, ancient Buddhists thought that there were about 90,000 thoughts that flipped through your mind every day. Contemporary neuroscience places it about 50,000. Okay? 50,000 random thoughts go through your head. But the ones about self-doubt, they've built a pathway, right? And so they pop up really frequently and we hold on to them. We're neurologically wired to do that. So to ask whether or not it's true, to take it a pause, to not take them as you're failing, I love that, is critically important. So I have a quiz. It's a superpower quiz where you can learn about your best attributes, the things that allow you to be successful, but also what the dark side of those things look like. I'm offering it to you. It's a freebie. You're going to get a lot. You'll get 8 emails. It's not marketing email. They're stories and tips and tricks. It's very much like this. So if you're interested in taking it, it's a fun, quick quiz, and there are lots of good things in there. And Claire has put it in the chat. So you're welcome to take advantage of that. So I'm going to keep moving on here. So challenge your inner challengers, give pause between your critical thoughts and your actions related to a situation. This is a power move. You're taking the power back, and discover how your best can become your worst by taking the quiz. So key number 3 is building and maintaining your boundaries. And this is going to be a pretty fast session, actually, this section of it, because I'm going to tell you some truths here about boundaries. Boundaries don't happen unless you are able to connect with and recognize your own worth. Okay? So if you've got those self-doubts, until you start to manage them, if you haven't looked at your strengths or your values or your accomplishments, putting a boundary in place, you can do it, but you'll probably backtrack on it. Just as I explained that I had, because I hadn't done the first 2 keys. So creating boundaries, we hear a lot about boundaries. We think that they're so important. They are. They are really important. They are very effective when you know how to do them effectively. So work on the first 2 things. I was uncomfortable when I first started working with boundaries. Like even after I'd done the work, I was uncomfortable. So it's really about also learning a new skill. So I have another story about a client, my client, Kelly. She's a healthcare professional and her schedule was very fluid. She found that on her days off, she was often asked to work. She shared with me that she knew that it was critical that she had time to rest and reset in order to work with patients safely and effectively. But she struggled with the fear of appearing uncommitted or worse, lazy. Beneath this thought, she had a concern that she might lose her job. So even though there was absolutely no proof that she was lazy or that she would be let go, it always came up for her, and it made her say yes. Every time they called, she said yes. So she came to me to find greater balance, and we focused our efforts on, building up and breaking loose of those thoughts, but then on reframing the mindset that she had about her worth and her scarcity. If I don't do enough, they're not going to want me. Before she was able to successfully set the boundary, though, around her time off, she had to learn this new pattern. And she chose, I gave her some things she could try, and she chose a strategic pause. This is when you take a beat between the input. We talked about taking a pause when it's ourselves thinking something and before we act. This is about taking a pause when there's an input from an external source. So we take the pause, and it can be very highly effective for many folks. So Kelly successfully established a boundary to protect her days off by simply not immediately responding to the request. She shared that it was really tough at first. She had to put her phone in her laundry room and take her dog out for a walk, not for like a 10-minute walk, but like a 45-minute walk, because she was so much in autopilot in responding to yes, saying yes, as we have here. I've been 100% the yes person, fear of disappointing. Yes, understood. So Kelly's story does highlight common fears around setting boundaries, like being perceived negatively, not meeting expectations, confronting scarcity-based fears like losing your job. That's a huge fear for many of us. And in order to establish boundaries, you have to believe that you are worthy, that in creating what you need to flourish and thrive. Kelly faced obstacles, including her own fears. And I wonder how many of you can relate to this story. I see a few of you have commented. I wonder if any more of you can. Well, I'm gonna move on here. I want to give you a power statement. Some of you may have heard of affirmations. Affirmations may sound something like, I am worthy of boundaries, right? I will let you know at the end about the replay. So instead, I'd like you to try this power statement, and this will come to you in an email also. So here's the power statement. I care deeply about my own happiness and satisfaction and prioritize my own well-being in life. That is a power statement. And just like with an affirmation, you say it, affirmations, you say those daily, you wake up to them, you put them on your mirror, you do whatever you can to give yourself a boost. This is to empower you. And this comes from the work of a woman, Claire Zammit, who has studied these limiting beliefs. And she believes that affirmations are nice, but they're not powerful enough. And so we have to really enforce with ourselves that I care deeply about my own happiness, satisfaction, and I prioritize my own well-being. And really replace some of those negative thoughts with those powerful thoughts. So here we are again. My goodness, I am really having a hard time with moving through. I'm using Canva, which is the first time I've displayed on Canva. So practice boundaries with yourself first. What this is about is if you find yourself saying, oh, I'll put my phone down at 10, an hour before I go to sleep, but you don't do it, you have a boundaries breach. So I encourage you to first work with your own boundaries before you start putting them out there to other people. Going to the gym, eating healthfully, whatever the thing is that you're trying to achieve, but you're not enforcing with yourself, start there. And then work with this power statement in the same time. So we have covered a lot of ground today, from looking at acknowledging the brilliance at the core of you, through identifying, recognizing those things that, those voices or that inner critic that comes up for you as a lizard, and creating some space and understanding whether or not they're valid or true. And we've talked about boundaries. So this is not too bad. This is not too bad for 45 minutes. So I'd like you to give yourself a hand or a pat in the back because you were worth this hour of sitting here and listening to me and playing in the chat and doing, yeah, give yourself a pat on the back. So this is like an appetizer course, and I love doing this masterclass, which is why I do it every month. It's small bites for you to take away and meet an immediate need, and there's so much more available to you. So if you're interested in taking this experience to the next level, where you can truly create clarity and balance and catalyze a transformation of your leadership and your life, like Kelly and Chris and I said I have, and others that I've worked with, I encourage you to take me up on my offer of a free balance breakthrough session where we can talk about the things that are in your way, the challenges. We can come up with sort of a roadmap for how you can work through them. And I'll drop you tips. I can't help it, even though my sales coach is like, no, don't do that. And you're, I do. So you'll walk away with even more value. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, where I have newsletters and posts that I put out that are all about all of this stuff that we covered today. So I'd like to share with you a little bit about Chris and Kelly, if I may, as a closer. So Chris is thriving in her C-suite position. She's received accolades and honors. She's newlywed. She has preteens at home, an emerged family. Her personal life is blossoming. She has fantastic boundaries. She's leading with her values. And she picked up on the boundaries after learning to manage her own fear of not letting someone down. And it all started with this simple 30-minute meeting. Kelly shared that our work together has transformed her life. Her relationships, both at work and at life, are stronger than stronger than ever. She has greater balance than she's ever experienced, and she's doing something in her 40s that she'd only ever secretly dreamed about, and she's pursuing her PhD. Her transformation started with a simple conversation. I can continue with stories of people that I've worked with that they only had a sense that they were not activating their full potential. And through our work together, they were able to. And it all came about through a 30-minute session, a breakthrough session. I want to say to you that folks are really hesitant to get on the phone with a coach because they feel like they're going to be sold something. And that's just not me. I haven't sold you anything here in this hour. And so I want you to feel like if you'd like to continue the conversation, you are welcome to do that. My programs are everything from this free masterclass to low-cost workshops, which are starting in October, where you can learn more about your strengths. November, values. December, your accomplishments, where we'll work together and create those sort of inventories of all that you're working with before the new year. And those are very low cost. I have group coaching programs, and then I also have my one-on-one customized programs. So no matter where you are with your resources, whether you have only 2 hours you can carve out, or $27, or you're ready for transformation, I offer programs across the spectrum. So I encourage you to take advantage of that session. I am passionate and committed to helping people break this work-life balance conundrum. I see it across the world. Gallup just did a poll that over 44% of all workers reported that they are stressed to highly stressed daily. 44% across all levels. So it's something that's really needed. And if I'm the person that gives you the spark that allows you to tackle it on your own, then that is wonderful. So if you would like to stay on the line, we're right at 12:59. Yeah, I did it. Okay. 1 hour. So if you want to stay on the line, if you'd like to chat, I'm going to remove the share over here. I'm going to stop the share. If anybody would like to stay on and learn more about anything that we've talked about, that's what the last half an hour is for. Oh, and I'm going to unmute. No, no. Okay. So if you'd like to, is there anything that really struck you that you'd like to know more about? Or if you'd like to share in the group anything that you're challenged with, you're welcome to do that too. Hi,
Hi.
Chelsea.
I just had a question. So there's a few of us that are on this that come from the same company. A lot of the times, like, we celebrate our team's accomplishments versus our own accomplishments, and we don't get recognized for our own accomplishments. So how is that something that we can work on? Because we're always trying to be the cheerleader for our team versus ourselves, because we feel they're the most important to the company.
Is that true?
I mean, they deal a lot with patient care, so I feel like it is. So
Is it true that you were less important?
I feel like I'm as equally as important, but I don't feel like I get the accomplishment on big wins from other leadership people.
Yes. Okay. So here we're talking about a lack of I'm just going to put it out there, a lack of true leadership, which is to recognize not only your own accomplishments and the accomplishments of your peers, but the accomplishments of your subordinates. So congratulations to you and to whomever else is on the line, the Zoom meeting with you, in doing that with your own teams. Brilliant. When we get to a certain level, I notice this, when we get to a certain level, or it's just the management style. If you're working in healthcare and you're working with physicians, I worked with PhDs. And so there was like this whole lack of understanding of like all of these soft skills that really make for engagement and productivity and quality. So you have to find it within yourself. It has to become a practice that you do for yourself. And if there are a couple of you that work together, I encourage you, if you want to, I do in organization coaching too. And if you would want a workshop where that's where you sit around and that's what you do as part of your leadership development, reach out, because it's really critically important. I've done it with the VIA. I've done it with the values accomplishments. I used to do it with my own teams. I call it the look in the rearview mirror. And we would look back at all of our accomplishments and then lay out our future. So, yeah, and if you don't want to do that, then you've got to do it on your own. You have to make the time for yourself.
I did mention it to our group, like, this is something that I think that we should think about for a future retreat, is having some type of group session.
Yeah.
I think it would be beneficial for us. We're kind of, we're viewed as supervisors, but we also kind of, some of us feel like we're out just on a ship in the ocean with no direction.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's a struggle for real.
It is a struggle for real. That same Gallup poll really shows that the most burnt out folks throughout levels are managers. Because they're sandwiched. It's sort of like the sandwich generation, is the sandwich leadership, because you have to be keeping up the spirits and the attitudes and the productivity and supervising, which, come on, it's not easy.
Never is.
And you have to be managing up all the time, managing expectations, helping them build vision of what's possible and what's not. And you don't get the same sort of nourishment that you're giving to your teams. So managers are really sandwiched.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So any other questions from anyone else?
Can I go next?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi. So I've been working in biotech research for 3 years. I graduated from a master's in 2021. And last week, my company shut down and they basically laid everyone off. And
Yeah.
my last date is going to be November 1st. I'm also an immigrant. I moved here from India 5 years ago. Right now, I just feel like I kind of want to figure out what I really want to do because
Yeah.
up until now, I feel like, I got my master's, I did this, but I kind of like want to get into a role or a career opportunity where I like really feel comfortable with myself. And, I would love doing that kind of situation.
Yeah.
But there is definitely, um, let's say, a normal, oh, if this doesn't work out, this is what you do kind of situation. But I also feel like I should explore many other opportunities than what like most people do.
Yeah.
But it's kind of very hard to kind of like shut down all the other voices, like my friends, my parents, and to kind of like to just go with my gut feeling.
Yes.
So it will be a big change, but it's going to take time and patience for me. But I'm really trying to just understand how should I get started on this.
Yeah. I would suggest that you book this balance breakthrough, that we talk about what
I
you're
did
on.
actually.
Oh, good, great.
Yeah.
Because, if I'm not the coach for someone, I've been through, 2 coaching programs. I'm certified. I have like this whole network of great coaches that do different things.
Yeah.
So you might be like, I'm thinking about a friend who's a reinvention specialist,
Mhm.
about reinventing your career. So, we'll talk through this, and like I said, if I'm not the right person, then I can help you out.
Okay. Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, I'm glad you booked. Anyone else, any other comments or questions? I know Danielle, I'm assuming it's Danielle, not, yes, Danielle. I want to thank you. I saw your comments coming through. Hello. Yes. Are you part of the group?
I am,
Engagement
yes.
group? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And Tracy, who
And
just turned
Tracy.
on her camera. Yeah.
Yes. How about Karen? Are you in there too? No. Wow. You were with me too. Sarah, are you also with this group? Okay. All right. Well, thank you all. I'm delighted that you all came together and signed up. Um, so Karen, and then someone else just popped on. Oh, let's see. Nazrat, thank you, Nazratala. Okay, so uh, do either of you have questions? Okay, I see Nazrat. Yes, please.
Hi everyone, it was nice to join the event, even though I joined a bit late, but it was very useful. I just have a question because whatever was discussed, I can kind of resonate with it. But my question is specifically, how can we handle the post-migration identity crisis when we are like kind of confused about our career, where we are, where we are leading? Like it's something I'm personally dealing with recently, even though I had a lot of accomplishments in the past, but sometimes I still feel like an imposter. And yeah, so any tips on that would be useful.
So can I get a little bit more about your situation? Have you migrated here?
Yeah, currently I'm living in Canada after the chaos back home in Afghanistan. I had to leave. So I've been like shifting countries.
Yeah. I think that's a really fantastic question, especially because there are often people from different parts of the world, cultural differences, people who've immigrated. I think that was a really great question, and it is absolutely a thing. Um, and I think that it's very common to have those inner critics and the imposter syndrome. But then when you have sort of this buildup, I'm going to use the word trauma. I don't know what your situation was, but a buildup of trauma that is underlying that, it's more than just imposter syndrome. So I would love for you to book a balance breakthrough session and we can talk more about this. So as a coach, I'm not a counselor. I am a trauma-informed coach. So I can, sort of understand some of the things that if you share with me, I can sort of understand where it is that you should be looking. I might also in my network have people who might be more closely aligned with what you're looking for. I would love to say that I can do it all, but I can't. That's part of confidence, right? So please, please take advantage and we'll talk for half an hour and see what we can come up with.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So Karen, thank you for being on screen. I really appreciate it. I wonder if there's anything that's on your mind.
Hi. I suppose it's been really helpful because of the comment that I put in there. I'm challenged with a colleague who seems to have formed an opinion about me that I don't think is true, and then it's just a constant thing because she's so sure of herself. And so it's been really helpful to think about the fact that just because I see her as someone who is logical and intelligent or whatever does not necessarily mean that. And I know that's really common sense, but it's just getting it into here that just because she says it doesn't mean that it's true, because her words are very they go, they can be hurtful or they start challenging my confidence. So it's good to think about the lizards. Thank you very much for that.
Yes. The other thing is, Karen, I just read this in a book and I sort of love it, is that there's this correlation in, being researched between confidence and action, right? So it was looked at, if you're not confident, you don't take action. Well, from my perspective, it's like, well, fear made me propelled me forward. It wasn't like I was saying, oh, I can do this. I might have been on the outside, but on the inside, I wasn't. But I like this idea of confidence and action. So if you look at all of your accomplishments, look at all the actions you've taken, look at everything. And an accomplishment is not just like, oh, your big wins that were like unicorns and butterflies. They are the things that you have overcome to get where you are today. You have had to take action, whether it's mental action, emotional action, or physical action, and let those build your confidence and your resiliency up. And know that workplaces, the reason I studied trauma-informed coaching is because workplaces are more dysfunctional than our families at this point for many of us.
And work quite often is our family in some respects, isn't it? I think especially with COVID and stuff, it very much became, we spent more time with people at work, even if it was on a screen, than we did with our family and friends. So I think it's a double blow then whenever you come out of COVID and they're having difficulties with the colleague.
Yes, absolutely. So you are more than welcome also to book a one-on-one, for 30 minutes and talk about what's going on. And I do coach on these issues, and I have resources. It could be an article or something that you might find interesting.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for sharing. I want to thank all of you for sharing. I'm always so honored. Here we are in the Zoom room. Okay, well, 4 of you know one another, but the rest of us don't know you. And I'm always just so honored when people, even in the chat, share what they're facing, but then to come on screen and to really, say, hey, I'm struggling with this. It takes so much courage to do that. And if you do nothing else today, put that on your list of accomplishments. That lizard that named Courage just took a step back, by the way. And, and your true courage stepped forward. You see what I'm saying? It's like the lizard is the negative self-talk, and you overcame that. You all did. And so thank you so much. So honored. I'm all choked up.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, Shauna, thank you for being here so much. Does anyone have anyone have any questions or anything they'd like to chat about? No? Okay. You are welcome to leave the Zoom room whenever you're comfortable doing so. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah.
Bye. I guess I'll talk to you tomorrow. I've booked the session for tomorrow.
Great. Okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Karen, I just wanted to ask if if you would like to book anything with me, I'll drop that link in the chat again for you and we can just talk. Nasrat, Kim, are you still there? Claire, thank you. Thank you so much for your support. You can log off. Okay. Kim, are you there? Okay, and is it Eshimokai? Eshimokai? Are you there?
Yes, ma. Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Yeah, you call it rightly. I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. So do you have any questions for me? Because we're about ready to log off. And if you can't talk to me right now, you can come to one of these breakthrough sessions.
Join the breakthrough section. How will I join it? When is the section coming up?
Oh, okay. So here's what it is. I'm going to put it in the chat.
Okay, that's
And
fine.
you got the link?
Oh, yes, I've seen it.
Okay. So this is where we meet for 30 minutes and you share with me what's going on. And I can give you some resources. I can tell you more about what I do. And
Okay, that's fine.
it's just a free resource for you to get more resources.
Okay.
Okay. And
Yes, ma'am.
that link will take you to my calendar and you'll see if this week is booked out, the next time I have openings is on Monday. And I don't know if
Okay.
you're here in the US.
No, no, I'm not in US. I'm in Nigeria.
Okay. What's your timings difference?
Right now, 9 minutes after 18. That's 18 minutes after 9 p.m.
Okay, 18 minutes after 9. So something
Yeah.
earlier in the morning might be better for you. Earlier in my morning. I'm going to give you an email.
Okay, that's fine.
Here's the email. And you let me know a couple of times that would work for you, your time zone,
Okay,
and I'll do the translation and we'll see if we can set something up, okay?
that's fine, ma. Thank you very much, ma. It's
You're
okay.
very welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, we'll talk soon. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.